Zander, what have you brought to the table today?
Well, Lou, you know me. I'm always full of surprises. And this time, I'm switching things up every single week. What about you? Anything cooking?
I'm still deciding, but funnily enough, I couldn't keep this table to just us. I've invited a few guests to join us this season. You might recognize a few of them.
Oh yeah? Should I be excited or nervous?
A bit of both. Now, I'm in a rush. I've got a lot cooking on the stove. So pull up a seat when you're ready and let's dig in.
Welcome to Tech at the Table, where ideas get served.
Hello. Well, welcome to Tech at the Table. And you're joining us from Denver, which is otherwise known as the Mile High City. Is that correct?
That's correct, yes. Mile high, 5,280 feet above sea level, or whatever they call that in Europe.
Do you get altitude sickness there?
Not as much in Denver, but if you go up to the mountains, it's really important to hydrate and not drink too much, because I think people underestimate how much alcohol can impact them in the mountain towns.
And you also are known for craft beer. So there's something for everyone out there with the alcoholics then.
Yeah, we're more known for skiing, but craft beer is one too.
Counterintuitive.
I mean, you're right. Something for everybody.
What time is it in Denver? But then I've just learned that you and Zana might not actually even know what the time is. Do you guys want to share with the audience a little issue you guys had on stage with another fellow podcast guest we had on previously?
Well, it tends to happen, right? When you're on a panel and all three of you don't have your time correct and your watches don't necessarily work, we all turned to each other and said, oh my God. Actually, no, Will, you called it out on our panel. Yeah, you looked over, you're like, what time is it? Like, it's awkward.
I love something about wearing a real watch. And, I don't have an Apple Watch. I don't have a Garmin. I don't have any of those. I like having a real watch. But I have the time on my phone. And so, the importance of having the watch tell time is low. Guess I thought I was alone in this, and it turns out both Zander and the previous guest also do not use their watch to tell time, which is very interesting.
I was reflecting on this, Will. I think it's because, and all three of us, and this is Kevin Schaffman was the other, all three of us travel through time zones so often, and to just remember to constantly change it is just something we just don't think about that often. We just like having watches. But it's like crossing time zones. We broke the time zone.
There's something quite beautiful about that. You're just not watching the time. I hate, how amazing. You're just so present, guys. Or you're just really, really fucking late to everything. It's breakfast time, Will. What are you eating?
I just wrapped up some yogurt with some kind of breakfast cereal / granola from Costco. Trying to get my protein in, but keep it a little crunchy and healthy as much as possible.
You got to do that when you're on the road. You got to do that. Zana, what about you? What's cooking?
Well, I'm in a similar health kick. I just came back from Euro summer. Little time in Greece. I got my protein shake. I got Jack Link's beef jerky. It feels very Mountain West, the teriyaki version, not necessarily, but Jack Link's.
As far as I'm aware, beef jerky was invented in Colorado.
Well, I'm not munching on beef jerky. I think there must be something quite unattractive about women just eating beef jerky.
I think the Dutch love beef jerky. Isn't that a big thing?
My daughter loves jerky. She's just goes to the fridge, jerky.
I've actually made carbonara. I was going to say, how do you make it, Zana? I know your family love cooking. Everyone's like, yeah, you just put the egg yolk in and load of parmesan. I completely disagree. The cream is the best bit. And some Leon carrot.
The cream is critical. Well, you just got to make sure you don't break the egg so it doesn't turn into scrambled eggs. And so you have to mix the cream and the egg outside and then make sure those blend well together and they don't overheat. And then you can have it can curdle really fast. So it's a delicate dish. And then the Parmesan I usually do a little bit later.
Well, right. For the podcast, we want to know all about you, Rabbet. Who are you and personally, professionally, what do you bring to the table?
Well, Will Mitchell, born and raised in Denver, Colorado, and then left and studied architecture and structural engineering at the University of Virginia before doing multifamily development in Washington, D.C., where I saw an opportunity for technology to have an impact on construction and development. I mean, candidly, since I was, in seventh grade, I loved the built environment. I got AutoCAD for Christmas, just loved how buildings interacted with nature. Colorado and Denver, known for nature, is one of the other things we're typically known for. And so it's just always such a big passion for me. In early 2010s, I thought that technology was going to come to the space and decided to go to business school in Austin, Texas, thinking that an MBA would make me a better entrepreneur and founder. Can't confirm or deny whether or not that happened. But it gave me a great foundation to build a company. And so before prop tech and con tech were even a thing, I started building technology for the space in 2013. And over the years, we've, focused in on how we can help in real estate developers and construction finance. And, that's a little bit about my background. Personally, came back to Denver a couple years ago, welcomed a daughter, and being close to family and having their support is just so great. But the real story is I told my mom I'd move back to Denver once I got off the Denver Broncos season ticket wait list. And after 20 years on the wait list, I got off. And of course, fulfilling the promise to my mom, I moved back within a year. Now, also I'm a Denver Nuggets season ticket holder. So really love the sports here, love the outdoors, and it's been great to be back in Colorado.
And as the audience knows, Will and I have a deep connection from the University of Virginia, and that's exactly how we met originally. It was one of the most fortuitous meetings of, have you heard of this Revolution by Rabbet? And we surprisingly enough, hadn't run into each other yet, but have very similar missions. And yeah, I consider you one of the pioneers of the category before it was truly a category. You've done a lot of things to push us along, and one of the harder ones to do, right? Well, solving for your problem, which I like to get into in the moment, but solving for the construction side is one of the harder pieces of our business and developers alone. That is coming from that mindset. It's really hard to sell into. But with that in mind, can you give us a 1-minute pitch of the business?
Yeah. Rabbet is a real estate software company that turns, fragmented information into trusted insights that can be shared, understood, and acted on throughout the development lifecycle. We sell 2 products: Rabbet Development, which is a real estate development management software for owners, developers, asset managers. It tracks budgets, contracts, cash flow, change orders, pay applications, invoices, approvals, draws, so that your team always knows what's going on in your project. Answers are available without chasing context. Portfolio risk, and financial kind of costs are identified before they become project problems. Our second product, Rabbet Construction Lending, is a construction loan management software for lenders, banks, financial institutions. Tracks draws, inspections, pay applications again, lien waivers, so that lending policies are managed consistently and proactively. Portfolio risk is visible as the projects progress, and funding decisions are, verified with evidence before money moves.
I think that was slightly over the 1 minute, Will. But there's everyone listening, this is a new pitch, so please comment on how we can shorten it.
Never been timed on it before, so
you wouldn't know because you'd have a watch working.
The fact that I remembered it was actually the best part of it.
Well, I just want to confirm though, from as you said, you were working on the development side in DC. What was the inspiration? Because this wasn't the original product and vision, correct? You started on another part of the value chain and then got into this side.
Yeah. So, when I was doing multifamily development in DC, I started flipping houses on the side and really felt that information asymmetry caused friction in the ecosystem unnecessarily. And that if you structured data in a way that was ingestible by consumers, you could, ease a bunch of the costs that are caused by, having a contractor come to your house to give you a bid and then another one and another one. So you understand how much it costs and what's in scope and this other stuff. Is there a platform that could help you understand the scope of a project and give you reasonable cost information before starting? So kind of a TrueCar for home renovation, if you all remember TrueCar. And so we started working out with homeowners and contractors to help them transact more efficiently, and really found in that process that payments was a key problem throughout the space, and homeowners and contractors are terrible customers. So we pivoted into working with developers and lenders and focusing on moving the money between the two, and still trying to solve that problem of information asymmetry, easily sharing context throughout the ecosystem to drive better decisions. And they are much better customers than homeowners and contractors.
I just think it's a very important lesson learned for the audience of identifying a problem, building a solution, knowing that the problem actually exists at a greater scale elsewhere, not being stuck and then being able to evolve and take that to where the product market fit really is. But it's a great lesson in evolution. And I wouldn't say pivot, but the way you took the turn of the business, you tacked on it, which is really, really impressive.
Thank you. No, I think being able to throw away, like the first version I built of the software, I paid $400 on Elance to build the first version. The second version was $1,200 to a local guy here in Denver. The third version was 2 college kids for $3,500. Like, I just kept making versions of the software and throwing them away. We went through YC, spent 6 months building, and like real engineers, we threw it away again. We're probably on the 7th or 8th version of our software.
I imagine you're spending slightly more money on the engineering side rather than a few bucks here and there, marginally.
Just marginally more. That might be 1 hour of engineering at this point.
That's what, yeah.
20 minutes of vibe coding. Don't get him started on the vibe coding.
The important thing is strong opinions loosely held. Make decisions, tact. Like, it's hard as an entrepreneur. I think you need to constantly balance your vision and your commitment with the feedback you're getting from the market. And if you over-index on either, you're probably going to get stuck. You can't over-index on the feedback from the market. You can't over-index on your vision. It's tough.
Well, that sort of leads us into the next question. Like, what's one of the most challenging moments? Today, I thought, as you said, loads of founders, it's accepting that your product is not perfect, the thing you built for so long. But it sounds like you've been fairly open-minded, saying, you know what, there's a better version of this. Let's pivot, let's try something new. Some founders take years to do that and spend a lot of capital doing it, whether it's their capital or say venture. But is there another sort of standout moment for you that was, particularly hard?
Yeah, so this would have been 2016, and we had applied to Techstars, Austin and Boulder, and made the finals in both. They both loved us. They actually referred us to Techstars Seattle, and we got rejected from all 3 of them. We applied to 2 programs and somehow got rejected from 3. And the feedback was essentially...
That's actually impressive.
Right?
That's a home run.
Yeah, no one ever gets that. Like, by the way, we're also rejecting. Like, I don't even know who you are.
I didn't even apply for that job. You've rejected me proactively. So, the feedback was pretty consistent. They loved us. They loved construction. They loved generally, but they didn't love our business model that was working with homeowners and contractors at the time. And so I left Austin. I came back to Denver. I just posted at a Galvanize and, talked to anybody that would kind of chat with me through the time. And, early January, we made the tact that, or tack that Zander.
Louisa's the sailor here. I just know that that's a term. You can tack, but Louisa was living on the boat. Tack. You can tack. It's a past tense.
So we tacked in early 2017 and immediately were accepted to Y Combinator. And looking back, that decision to kind of reflect on the feedback that Techstars had given us, specifically, some of the problems we had faced just scaling the LTV, LTC of our customer base at that point, was a pretty big moment in the history of the company.
People receive feedback differently. Zander, how are you with receiving feedback?
I've heard, and this is just from some of the teams, that's one of my better qualities. Is I appreciate it, I like it, and I engage in it. I don't ever get upset. When, for the background, I grew up working in restaurants. There's not much you could say to me that will make me upset. I've heard some horrible things said to me, about me, face to face. People are not the friendliest to the servers. And so once you build that skin and working around kitchens with aggressive chefs too, everything else is kind of cakewalk. And once you get that, it's hey, you can improve on this. You just want the constructive criticism. Tell me that. I'm happy to get into it. It's a weird quality. I always encourage people to work in service first before you get into industry.
I started a company at UVA to give out coupon books to the students. It was a trick to qualify for in-state tuition.
Ooh, that's smart.
I did entrepreneurial things instead of bartending in college.
Yeah, so that was my entrepreneurial leeway. I was I'll be part of an early stage bar.
Yes, yeah. Hey, yours was probably more fun. I hope mine was more profitable, though.
Another way of looking at those free rejections, is maybe they aren't free failures, they're free lessons. How about that? Let's put a spin on that.
Hey, I don't mind feedback as long as it's constructive and in available of the context. I think sometimes feedback is in an island without context, and it's yes, that sucks, but I had to make a decision, and there was no perfect decision, so especially as a founder, you're working in the gray most of the time. Should you pivot? Should you not pivot? Should you fire this person? Should you not fire this person? Should you, take this customer? Should you not take this? Like, there's not usually like a black and white answer to most things. And so if the feedback is kind of, hey, in consideration of the context at the time and other things, but I think sometimes, feedback is devoid of understanding of the context. And that's what I find it challenging to engage with it, if I'm admitting some of my own faults here on this podcast.
We welcome all the hot takes and hot opinions as well, which is our next theme and question. Starts with A, ends in I. The world's changing, as you know, and we've had panels discuss this. So where do you see the growth in your business and what skills? And this is the greater broad themes, the things that people are trying and testing. But
I think there's a lot, changing, as you had mentioned. And the most valuable thing, I think, at the moment is really the importance of context and taste and judgment and kind of that consideration. More and more I find folks are repulsed by some of the AI slop they're receiving and they're ingesting and they're reviewing. And so as you look to kind of engage human to human, right? Like, people engage with the context, engage with the judgment, engage with the taste. And, that's what we as software providers, are working to provide, a solution that has context and judgment and taste. And, I think there's been a disconnect between software as a service and an overemphasis on the software part and a lack of emphasis on the service part for maybe decades. And I've been vocal about my distaste of software companies that continue to raise their price on me 9% or so every year, but don't provide me any service or improve the product or do anything that meaningfully helps. And I think companies are shifting back to really look at, like, hey, is this partnership, is this service really working for me and helping me grow my business, helping provide support, helping improve my business, not just, hey, I'm licensing this software that I pay a toll every year for and goes up whether I want it to or not.
I'm with Martin Kelly from Blueprint, who is a sponsor of Tech at the Table podcast and a partner of LMRE.
We've been delighted to partner with LMRE over the last few years for Blueprint and very excited about supporting Tech at the Table. And for everyone from the community, we do have a discount for Blueprint Vegas in September. We really hope to see you there, alongside Lou, of course.
So check it out in the show notes.
I would say, on the engagement piece as well, you as a founder, it's so important to bring people with you. Like, in the construction world, it's such a highly relationship-driven operational industry. So technology only creates value if people actually use it. And then I guess on the taste side as well, as AI makes it easier and faster to build software differentiator, it's going to be what should be built? What are people actually sort of wanting? What shouldn't be built? What should be built? Which I guess is what as someone from the industry, you listen to your customers. You're okay, this is what they're actually for. This is where the value is going to be. And actually identifying the right workflows or what's worth improving, as you were talking about earlier, in terms of all the different product evolutions your business has had.
Well, and we stick mostly above the on-site construction. We work with the developers and lenders, off-site. But, there's a lot of focus on the efficiency of construction and how to improve it. But the reality is, the vast majority of construction remains a human installing a material on a job site, having conversations on the job site, solving problems on the job site. Unless there's a way to collect that information in the flow of work, it's really hard to improve that process. And I asked the question recently of a post that, was talking about the difficulties in construction and efficiency. It's how do you get the laborer who's walking around all day to put in information on what he did during the job site? And that's never going to happen. So does he wear a camera that records what he does and what he says all day long? And then you ingest that data to give him feedback in real time? I mean, that's a lot of machinery, a lot of, data. I still think, construction on the job site is people installing materials most of the time.
I guess it's finding those people with that domain experience who do want to wear that hat, whether it's I don't know, here's a plug it. I know open spaces, people who literally go around with like cameras and that, like absorbing all the data.
Well, and the cost of it, right? The cost of value, I think, is the hard part, right? So you look at, Drone Deploy was just acquired, Onsite IQ. Those companies, will go and take these shots, but if you're going to collect all that data and leverage it, right? Like there's got to be a provable ROI in the kind of use case. And I think it's hard, especially for lower cost projects, to justify the spend of collecting all that data and trying to analyze it.
Because then it's what do we do with it after this? Like we said, we collect all this, but it's a low cost project. We don't necessarily have a need for it, unless you can find a way of like this will be a blueprint for replication and maybe for insurance underwriting, which is a stretch of the term. But if you just provide the basic tools or like the core tools for the overall of the project and then the framework that they can operate in, then you've done the best possible job you can. Has it changed the skills of your own team a lot? Like the people that you're recruiting? I know we talked about this when I was in Denver with you on the team offsite. From what you look at and the type of skills, if it's more service oriented or people that are more attached or from industry, so just like college kids you recruited to build some of your MVPs, but is it like people? What's really shifted skills that you're looking for?
I would say the most important skill that we are indexing more and more on is curiosity. The not taking an AI output at face value, not looking at a process as to, that's just the way it comes. Like the people who are really digging in to understand, I think are the people who are going to do better in the next kind of wave of employment. And if you're not really questioning assumptions, like leading with curiosity, it's going to be tough to really gain the understanding and context to be impactful when a model can ship out a beautiful email in seconds.
Whenever we're interviewing people, I literally test how inquisitive they are as well. And I completely agree, not just assuming of what you've read on bloody AI or is like completely true. It's like digging a bit like another layer deeper. What about for our audience, AI solutions for yourself? Any ones in the industry which you're following, you're hyped about, or which they should be watching out for? Maybe like some personal products that you use?
The ones in the industry that I think are interesting are the ones that are really kind of helping the planning, pre-development, early stage, stuff, looking at the plans, comparing them. I mean, some of the vision that BIM modeling had sold to everyone was it would make, problem resolution in the field less, frequent, right? You would identify that the plumbing stack, intersected with the HVAC duct. And so how, early plan review or plan design, like a track 3D that can help, both with pre-construction, takeoffs and estimates quicker, more efficiently, but also identify potential conflicts. As I said, I'm pretty hesitant of the impacts on job site of like having a material impact at the moment. But I do think there's better planning up front that can be done that would help streamline on-site resolution and mitigation. Personally, AI tools that I use, I'm probably not as great at kind of leveraging all of them as much as I'd like. I index more and more on relationships and on kind of my own words. And so I even find myself like going to them less these days, as a lot of my content is thought leadership or personal emails and outreach, trying to use some of it to do more kind of scalable outreach and, how we can engage more effectively with our community. But a lot of things I do is so personal and reflective of me that I struggle have too much of it.
I know what you mean. If you get an email from me and it's got a grammatical error or spelling mistake, it's from me. I don't really do math stuff. At one point I did and I was like, this is so on me. So if you got a grammatical error, I spelled your name wrong, that is from the heart.
It's remarkable watching her type. I gotta be honest. It's something else. I would prefer never to have AI involved in Lou because it's the errors are incredible.
I want to speak to you about something specifically. Sorry, I'm really bad dyslexic.
I kind of want you to be training these models, actually. You make it more interesting and like a different level of AI slop would be like Lou inputs.
Bringing it back to tech at the table, the thing that I've loved the most, so in my opinion, the thing that AI has been great for is not like doing things I was doing, better or faster, but doing things that I wasn't doing before that I can do now. The most notable one is meal planning for the week. And so I tell Claude my schedule for the week, where I'm going to be, pull in all of my events and say, hey, give me a meal plan, what I should eat at each meal for my 6 meals a day, put it on my calendar with each meal portioned out with what I need to eat at it. And it's phenomenal. So I just 9 o'clock hits and it says 1 cup of plain yogurt and, a half a cup of, granola. And I go and I put it in the bowl and it's ready to go. And so that to me has actually been the most valuable.
God, he sounds so controlled. With me, I'm 1 bowl of granola and yogurt, 1 Mars bar. And 3 margaritas to wash it down.
It's aspirational, let's just put it that way. But it is helpful, things that I wouldn't have done before that I'll turn to get help, doing and putting it on my calendar and other stuff.
What's one decision that you made at the table that changed everything?
A decision I made at the table. I mean, obviously the one I was sharing earlier about the pivot was, probably one of the most impactful decisions to make. There was another decision kind of after YC where we believed that the industry was going to shift to more of the document reading, document management. And, at the time we actually refused to use the word AI because that was scary to banks and frankly still a little bit concerning. But we were putting machine learning and kind of document reading into our software all the way back in 2018. And so, we were kind of on the forefront of some of the kind of current focus on how you can structure data and leverage it through various forms of machine learning and, now large language models. And so that decision to kind of throw away the software and start fresh, literally 4 months after YC was a pretty big one. And to weigh it with a negative, we also made the decision at that time to switch from Ruby on Rails to Elixir. And the Elixir event sourcing did not work out very well. So we had a win and a loss in this switch. And we've had to pull out event sourcing. But the Elixir market's a really interesting one for recruiting because it is such a small, unique market. We are kind of a unique company within that market. And being that construction finance isn't the most sexy thing to recruit for, at least recruiting for a cool language has been helpful generally. But it does make a smaller pool of talent to try to pull from. Anyways, that was a lot of information.
Well, who can help you hire in that niche pool? LMRE, plug. Okay, we are going to finish this podcast, Will, where you have to recommend a guest to join us at the table. Who is that guest going to be?
So, Ashwin Agarwal at Advocate Technologies just announced their Series A last week. They're doing some really interesting things on insurance, which Zander brought up recently. Super passionate founder with some, great insight, and I think he'd be a valuable addition to the group. Being that you've already taken some of my favorites off the table based off of your previous guests already, I think that Ashwin would be a great addition, and especially with their recent announcement, he's got a lot to share.
Amazing. Ashwin, we're coming for you, so I hope you're hungry.
I'd be fascinated. Construction, prop tech, hot ones. Lou and I trying to operate a microphone.
I want to hear a story. Early on, when I was starting this company, this would have been spring of 2016, there was a hot pepper pitch at South by Southwest where you had to take a serrano pepper, dip it in hot sauce, and then eat it, and then give your pitch. And so I eat it. I crushed this pitch. Couldn't have been better. I did so well, the guy starts stalling by asking questions and blah, blah, blah before giving me the milk. I'm hands down, I won this thing. There's no question my pitch was the best. Should have checked the rules beforehand. It wasn't the best pitch. It was the most entertaining pitch. And so the fact that I crushed the pitch actually was a loss because the guys who just threw up the whole time during their pitch were the winners. And so very confused on the criteria for a hot pepper pitch.
That's very subjective. That feels annoying. I heard about one in Estonia where they have you go into an ice bath and you have to give your pitch while in the ice bath, but they do care about the outcome. That's how NAR Reach found their first Estonian company. They saw them on this, like, their version of Dragon's Den, but in the Dragon's Den, it's like you got to be in the ice bath, deep in the water, pitching and not reacting to it, which I kind of like. It's like, if we could just combine that, maybe like you throw like the clown plunge, you can throw the ball, hit them, they go in the water, then they got to give the pitch. I have a grandiose vision of this.
I'll be there to watch and support you while you do this. Just keep me posted on the details, and I'll come on in.
I don't think anything would ever stop Zander talking, to be honest, whether it's like an ice bath, like a burning hot stove. I have no idea. He'll be fine. I will chime in on one thing, which I would love to see, which imagine you had to do a pitch whilst carrying your wife on your back. You know, in Finland, they have the World Wife Carrying Championship, and then you get a prize for it. Anyway, we're going to wrap this podcast up. The audience got way more than they bargained for in this one. Will, it's been a pleasure, and thank you for joining us at Tech at the Table.
Thanks, Louisa. It was great to be here. Thanks, Zander.
I was going to see it, Will.
As always, thanks for joining us at Tech at the Table.
It's been a pleasure having you. If you enjoyed today's episode, make sure to subscribe, leave a review, and follow us on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcast.
And if there's someone you'd like us to join the table, get in touch at podcast@techathetable.com.
Thank you for listening. We'll see you next time, and bring your appetite.